guys, and welcome back to another video. One of the things I wanted to talk about recently is actually dealing with change. Now, if you've dealt with anxiety before, then you know change is a big deal, really. I think that's the simplest way to put it. Dealing with change is something that we have to do through life. You can't predict everything, you can't plan for every eventuality. So we have to be able to adapt, we have to be able to deal with that change. And that can be really scary. I mean, for anybody, actually, when you have to deal with something totally unexpected. You know, like, imagine you have a job, you've worked there 5 years. One day you lose said job and you have to figure out what to do next. That would be scary for everybody. I mean, that's my interpretation anyway, that no matter who you are, no matter how relaxed you are, there are certain changes that can be pretty terrifying. And whether you suffer with anxiety or not, those situations can provoke anxiety, right? Because we're dealing with things that are potentially threatening to our livelihood, you know, loss of income, disruption in the home, those kind of things. So in this video, I just really wanted to talk about how we can deal with that change, how we can process our emotions, how we can avoid those anxious feelings manifesting into something a lot bigger and a lot scarier, such as anxiety attacks or those kind of things. So to start with, I guess the first thing would be to look at your options. Right, see how that change affects you. Is it direct, as I said, like with losing your job? Is that directly affecting you? Or is it something that's happening on a global scale, like a pandemic? Which, you know, okay, it affects everybody, but how much does it affect your life? And then when you see how it affects your life, that's when you can move on to step 2, which would be seeing what you can do about it. Right, anxiety really manifests from worrying about something in a lot of people. So the way to overcome that is by looking at your options. You know, channel that energy into something productive. Sit down and have a think, right, I can apply for 10 jobs a day. I can go speak to this person that I know who has their own company. I can start my own company. Things like that, right? We always have options. We always have choices. We just sometimes need to look a little bit harder to find ones that work for us. And again, in life, a lot of doors may close, and that's okay. That means it really wasn't that time for that thing to work, or there's something better in store. That's what I believe anyway, and it definitely helps. Right, having that kind of faith in what's meant to be will be, and there are plans for who you're meant to be and what you're meant to achieve, it does make it easier, because even though something scary could be happening right now, you think, well, I don't know where this is going to lead to. So when you're trying to sit down and think of things, it's really about also looking at your resources or getting ideas from other people. You know, thankfully we live in a day where there is so much help online, and there are many support groups like on Quora, for example, where you can ask people, you can ask for ideas and see what people come up with that will inspire you. And they may have been in a similar situation and they may have gotten through it, and that's what you really want to see, right? You want to see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Another thing to consider when dealing with change or facing something different coming along is really being open to new experiences. It's very easy to focus on the negatives, and that's drilled into us from a young age, that, you know, you only look at the scary stuff. And again, if it's something on a global scale, or, you know, something on the news that's triggered change, like, I don't know, a change in prime minister, a change in president, it's so easy to accept the media's viewpoint of why it's bad. But actually, it might not be. We might not be able to see in that moment of why it's good. But usually some good will come from it, and we just have to be open to seeing that. Then I think the other thing that I would definitely recommend when facing change, especially if you do struggle with anxiety, is to see what you can keep as a constant in your life, something that doesn't change, because then you can revert back to that when things get a little bit too much emotionally or mentally, and that makes a big difference. So what I'm talking about is either a certain family member or going to a certain place. You know, we often associate certain places with certain feelings because either there's a good memory there or a bad memory there. And the same goes with people, although people can change, people can be unreliable. So having a place to go to that you can really calm down, I guess, would be a really simple way of putting it. But somewhere where you can go, gather your thoughts, relax a little bit, you know, be one with nature to some extent. That's something that I think can definitely help lower the anxiety, because if you're in a situation where everything is changing and you have no constant to keep you grounded, that can be really hard because it's just a lot to process. So for example, you're moving house, you're changing jobs, you're moving away from your parents. If you don't have somewhere where it is a constant, that can all become overwhelming so quickly, and then it becomes so hard to deal with the anxiety. Now, I'm not saying that there will always be a constant available to you. So for example, if we use that last, situation or scenario, imagine that when you're moving away, you're moving abroad. That obviously means you won't have a constant available in a physical place, because otherwise you'd have to travel back and that might not really be possible. But you can have something simple like a song or a film or a book that really brings peace and joy into your life, and that can be what you gravitate towards. That can be that moment of relaxation and just switching off from everything that's going on. Then obviously with anxiety you have the various symptoms, and I have another video on how to deal with the symptoms, so obviously that's the other thing, and I just don't want to overlap too many things. But if you feel yourself getting overwhelmed in a situation that is new, then again it's good to practice breathing techniques, mindfulness techniques, maybe meditation, progressive muscle relaxation. Those kind of things are really worth looking at and spending a bit of time practicing, so that when you're in a tricky situation you can use them and help yourself relax so that you don't have an anxiety attack or a panic attack. But in terms of being specific to change, the other good thing is to look at the alternatives, right? And this is now kind of a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy, but it's visiting the best case scenario and the worst case scenario, and also looking at how you can navigate away from the worst case and what you can do if worst case were to happen. Having those kind of preparation moments it helps a lot, really, because you go into the situation feeling more prepared and like it is familiar, right? You do something mentally once, then actually going through it isn't as scary as if you've just tried to block it out and now you're suddenly there and you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, don't know who to talk to. So those are the kind of basics that from personal experience I find helpful when facing change, right? And it definitely helps really to focus on the positive. So let me know down in the comments any other suggestions for coping with change, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you next time.